Good afternoon. I'm going to talk to you about exploiting successful behaviours. This isn't a how-to, so don't feel that you're going to come away from this with a list of behaviours that if you exhibit mean that you're going to be successful. This is merely me reflecting on my sporting career and with hindsight looking at some of the lessons I learned. How often do we achieve a goal and then stop practicing the good habits because the situation's changed? As a professional athlete, I spend a lot of time trying to work out what is the best version of me? Am I good enough to do what I do? Am I fulfilling my potential? It's a very questioning and uncertain mindset to live in. Who am I? What is my identity? Do I add value? Every day in my sporting career, I work towards answering these questions to ensure I've been the best I could in order to achieve a very specific goal: win an Olympic gold medal. A question I was asked so often after the London 2012 Olympics was, why carry on when you've already won gold? Well, when we crossed that finish line at Eton Dorney on the 1st of August 2012, that was the first major championship medal Helen and I had won. We weren't world champions, we weren't European champions, and we hadn't set any records. In fact, we were hungry for more and knew we could be better. I was motivated by how much better we could be and excited to return to training, not filled with dread of the cold, dark winter months ahead. Fast forward 4 years, and in Rio, on the 12th of August 2016, when again we crossed the finish line first in a little yellow boat, I didn't have that same sense of excitement. In fact, my overwhelming emotion was one of relief. It's done. It's over. I can rest now. And with that, I knew I was ready to retire. But what does retirement look like at 31? Especially from an amateur sport where, you do it for the love of the sport and the satisfaction of being the best you can be. There's still a lifetime ahead of me and I needed a plan. I'm a big advocate of plans. You don't always have to stick to them, but you do need something to focus on when everything else around you begins to feel alien. For me personally, I was fortunate. Unlike many athletes who face retirement, I had a career ready to embrace. Long before I stepped foot in a rowing boat, in fact, throughout my childhood, as far back as I can remember, I'd wanted to join the army. I did that in 2007. It was actually 3 weeks after winning gold at the Under-23 World Rowing Championships. So, as my rowing career was beginning to build momentum, I felt passionate not to shut the door on my childhood dream. I worked hard to ensure that both could continue together in tandem. Knowing when to change the status quo can be a real challenge, whatever it is from and to, whether it's a career or lifestyle change. Human nature is not to like it because we don't like uncertainty and change. As an athlete, this was something I had to overcome at some point, a fear that had to be faced because, quite honestly, I couldn't continue rowing indefinitely. As an Olympic athlete, facing retirement, it's a double whammy of both a career and lifestyle change all at once. What do you do next? Who do you become? For over a decade, my identity had been Heather the rower. That's what I did, that's how I was known, and that's how I was introduced so often. My daily routine for the better part of 340 days a year had been wake up, have breakfast, go rowing, have second breakfast, row some more, have lunch, lift some weights, eat some more, rest, recover, have dinner, and go to bed. It's pretty monotonous, huh? Well, with the years focused around the 4-year Olympic cycle, everything I did was planned back from a date in the future, where the end goal lay, Olympic finals day. Yes, there were small goals to be achieved along the way, but these were merely just stepping stones on the journey to the ultimate goal, Olympic gold. Goal setting is not unique to Olympic athletes. In fact, people in all walks of life do it. So that feeling of satisfaction when you achieve a goal is not just for successful Olympians. What did you feel like last time you set yourself a goal and achieved it? What did you feel like when you didn't? Or did you just adapt the goal to avoid failure? Changing the parameters is a proactive approach to ensure success, and it's really pleasing when you can control the outcome. In theory, we should therefore never fail, but we all know that's not true. When trying to be the best version of yourself, it's really important to focus on the things which you can control and influence. Why waste energy on something you can't change? In 2011, it was only the second season racing internationally for Helen and myself at the senior level. We raced in a pair. It's a two-person boat where you have one oar each, so teamwork and trust are essential for success. A year earlier, at our very first World Championships, we had won a silver medal. So a year on, we wanted to go one better. We headed to the World Champs with confidence because, well, we'd had a successful World Cup series and we'd remained unbeaten so far that season. We were unbeaten until the final race. In fact, it was the final 100 metres of the final race. We were beaten into second place by 0.08 of a second. It was so close. If only that course had ended 100 metres earlier, the story would be very different. It felt like failure, another year of training, and we hadn't progressed at all. But that wasn't true, and this is where perspective is so important. Our goal that year had been to win a gold medal, and yes, we'd failed in that goal. But what was the bigger picture? For the team, it was success. For the team, it was success. A year out from the London 2012 Olympics, and we'd qualified a boat for those home games. In doing so, we'd won a World Championship medal, and I mean, that was quite frankly huge. But it didn't feel like it to us at the time. I believe it's how we dealt with that disappointment that made us better the following year. Our post-race analysis was focused on the things that we could change and improve, and it was all about control the controllables, a phrase so often used in sport. Yes, we'd both been ill during the week of the World Championship, so that was a good excuse which we could have used and carried on as we were, but that wouldn't have been exploiting the opportunity that had been afforded to us through our perceived failure. So what did we do? We set out a target of being the best we could be, even on our worst day. We had to be good enough, even on our worst day. And what did this look like? We set ourselves a target of working to a gold, or training to a gold medal standard. And this was doing everything we could to the best of our abilities on any day. So if I woke up feeling an 8 out of 10, you know what? That was an 8 day, and I did everything I could to the best of my abilities that day to an 8. And that was in everything, from my actual training to my rest, my recovery, my diet. And how did this manifest itself? We became more consistent. In fact, our training stats in the build-up to the 2012 Olympics were some of the most stable I had in my entire rowing career, both before and after those games. Often a barrier may stop you on your journey to achieving your targets, and it's all too easy to say, well, my objective can't be met and give up there. But there's always something else that can be, that you can try to try and get to that end goal. For Helen and I, our road to Rio was not as straightforward as our journey to London. Following some time away from sport for me to focus on my military career, I returned in 2014, far from my peak of fitness. I had to work hard to regain my place back in the team and back in the boat with Helen. In doing so, I'd overtrained and made myself ill, so this was then followed by a period of curtailed training. It was an incredibly frustrating time for me, but I suspect more so for Helen, who was held back by my lack of fitness. Yet despite this, she never once showed her frustration and was supportive as we kind of maintained our focus on our end goal as a crew. We adapted our training to maximise the outputs of what we could do, essentially what I could do, and that was a lot of technical work rather than the long endurance training sessions associated with the rowing programme. The Olympics were still some 24 months away, so we still had time to regain our place as the dominant force in our event, and it was with that in mind we headed to the 2014 World Championships feeling somewhat the underdogs. Yes, we were still ambitious, and we'd managed to remain unbeaten that season. I'm not too sure how, but we knew we were more than capable if the conditions were right, but we managed our expectations accordingly. We could hardly have imagined how that final would play out. As we sat on the start line, waiting for the starters' orders, a tailwind began to build, and in rowing, a tailwind's generally good news as it assists the boats, assists the crews in pushing the boats forward. But if the wind comes too strong, the waters become choppy and challenging for a small boat, especially the pair. Such was our necessary focus on technique in the build-up to that event, that when other crews struggled with the conditions, we were able to ride over the top of the choppy waters and harness that tailwind to our advantage. Not only did we win that race, we also set a world best time. Arguably, we were very lucky, and I acknowledge, had the waters been calmer that day, we would not have enjoyed such a victory. Our decision to focus on the things which we could control and improve paid dividends that year. But ultimately, it was Helen's patience and trust in us and the crew which was the biggest factor pulling us forward. Never once did she falter in her confidence in me, despite my lack of performance, and yet she also never doubted me and never made me feel undervalued, despite my lack of fitness. Sharing this journey and achieving goals, or my goals, with someone else made the experience all the more special. But it wasn't just Helen and me in the boat who were the team. Our coach Robin was equally as important than either of us, yet he was never adorned with the medals we were. Without him and the wider coaching and support staff, we would never have achieved what we did. And it's because of this, making the decision to retire and bring an end to that journey with that special group of people was so much harder. But often the hardest decisions are the right ones to make. It's well documented that athletes struggle when their career comes to an end, whether it's through choice or forced upon them. That sense of routine, purpose, goals, it all kind of comes to an end. You've got to find something else to fill those voids. What is your new identity? Some like to take the old them with them, others like to leave them behind. For me, personally, I think I'm still me, and I do still constantly question and doubt myself. It's just another chapter in my book. It's important, though, that we remember in those previous chapters, whether we feel them successful or not, they still have lessons that are important and have relevance to life after sport. I have to constantly remind myself to keep a sense of perspective. What's important to me is not necessarily important to those with whom I now live and work, but it is important that I value them for the skills and experience they bring. More recently, since becoming a parent, I'm no longer trying to be physically the fittest and strongest I can every day, but being the best version of me is still important, if not more challenging. So, if today is an 8 day, that's just fine. I'll be my best 8 out of 8. But if I'm truly honest, there's more 5 days. Thank you very much.